Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing NVC, that's the National Visa Center, and the 221G refusal. We've done a number of videos on this channel, including a video contemporaneously with this one discussing 221G in the context of both the K-1 and the IR-1 and CR-1 visa. But for purposes of this video, just suffice it to say a 221G is a refusal pending further documentation. We generally see these after an interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad. I'm talking about this generally in the context of the U.S. embassy here in Thailand, although we do deal with these cases regionally, and it could be sort of extrapolated to the wider world, if you will. But long story short, yes, the 221G, we generally deal with them here in Bangkok, and in K cases, K visa cases, the K1 or the K3, my opinion is you do see a little bit more 221G refusal because they don't front load some of the documentation intake in the same way that they do through the National Visa Center. Now, this is not to say that this is necessarily a bad thing. I personally, and I know practitioner counterparts of mine in the United States would sort of be, they'd kind of cringe at me saying this, but I'm a little more cavalier about 221Gs than they are because I deal with them through this post rather frequently, and we're blocks away from the embassy as opposed to half a world away. So it's just a little bit more streamlined when we're dealing with 221Gs, and immigration attorneys stateside really want to avoid it. And I understand, and different embassies do things differently. Frankly, Bangkok is very efficient in dealing with 221G follow-up. The reason for this video, though, is, yeah, you do see a little bit more 221G in these K cases. That said, K3s, and we've discussed this at length, are subject to what's called administrative closure, where the underlying immigrant spouse visa petition can be adjudicated. Now, post-COVID, we are seeing a little bit more K3 activity than we once did. But long story short, it's not as frequently done as the K1. And for this reason, we don't usually see K3s come through here and therefore see this kind of 221G disparity. But the reason for this video is, yeah, I think you could argue that there may be a little bit more 221G issuance in a K3 case that doesn't get administratively closed because there's less front-end intake of documentation through the National Visa Center because the National Visa Center just acts as a clearinghouse. They're sort of a post office. They just get that case, they forward it to the embassy, and that's that. And that's a very different thing than the process that's undertaken by National Visa Center in cases involving immigrant spouse visas, because in those cases, essentially NVC does all the intake, and in a way they kind of pre-adjudicate, which I really find annoying. They don't really have the right to do that, but they do kind of pre-adjudicate the documentation before sending it on to an embassy or consulate abroad.